PodcastCoug Season 2, Episode 2.
You're listening to the PodcastCoug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. And now, here is your host, PodcastCoug.
Hello, everyone. Hey, welcome back to the PodcastCoug. I am James Laurie, the PodcastCoug, and we are in Season 2, Episode 2. Welcome back to the second week. We're talking about all things Cougar football. You can find us all over the map, right? We're on iTunes and TuneIn, Google Play, iHeartRadio, YouTube. You can literally subscribe to any of this. Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud. Catch us anywhere out there. The PodcastCoug, we're talking about it's really a 25 to 30-minute program. It's program on demand, podcast. And so the first half of the program, we talk about the previous week's opponent, Montana State. And the second half, we're talking about the upcoming opponent against the Broncos, Boise State. Hey, I'll tell you, that's an exciting game coming up. First, we're just going to jump in. We're going to talk about Montana State. And what about the opening? What about the openings of Mike Leach? He's been with us for 6 years, 5 years in a row, the first 5. He never have no wins on any opening game or on an opening opponent, right? And I don't care if it's Portland State or Eastern Washington, not respecting the opponent. On Portland State, you can call it the rain, the weather. Eastern, a great football team in their conference, weren't ready. It took 6 years for Mike to finally do it, and we did it. Montana State, it was a shutout, of course. 31-0, Washington State, a shutout over the Big Sky Montana State Bobcats. And we are off to a great foundation in week 1. And we are on a great roll. And a great foundation. We're going to talk about the confidence and this team, how it's different from last year, how it's different from any air raid year we've had under Coach Leach. In fact, if you even go back to Texas Tech, this team this year is probably more balanced than anything he's ever had. I mean, he's had some good running backs, but I'll tell you, we've got some. I mean, we are going to be dangerous, and we are dangerous. And the kind of the biggest takeaway from Montana State and that shutout game is we respected the opponent. Right? We dominated the football, and we were cautious and confident, not overlooking. We had this swag and confidence, and I'm not talking about a cockiness at all. There's no cockiness in being swag and confidence, but the Cougs did what they needed to do, right? And what was that? That we basically took what Montana State gave us, right? If they're going to cover our receivers all day long and go down and go deep and cover our receivers, go ahead. All day long, do it. You know why? Because Colorado did it, the Buffs did it, the Huskies did it, and Minnesota on the Holiday Bowl, they just covered our receivers all day long. Montana State, hey, they're an air raid team. They're going to throw the football 90% of the time. Yeah, they know we're loaded up with running backs. Choate knows what he's doing. But basically, we've got this dimension, this additional weapon that is so huge. And guys, we're just getting started. We are just getting started. And the thing is that's smart football. And again, we took what Montana State gave us. And what did we do? What did Luke do? Dink and dunk. Dink and dunk all day long. Boom, 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 dink and dunk. 6 yards or less. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I'll take it. I don't care if it's Montana State or Arizona State, right? It's a win. It's not just a win. It's smart football. And Luke knows what he's doing. And how about the shovel pass? That's a great takeaway on week 1. What a great foundation to start our opener with the shovel pass. And, they did a marvelous job at it. And I'll tell you what, it was just a fun game for the most part, very efficient. Luke is generally 70 to 80% accurate at completing passes. And, it was 6 or 7 yards all day long last Saturday. But you know what? Drew Brees is Luke's number one admirer growing up. I mean, he admired, I don't know about idling, if he idled Drew Brees, but Drew Brees came down as probably the most efficient quarterback in NFL history. He's shorter, not as tall as Luke. And yes, everybody's looking at Luke right now. You've got a lot of NFL scouts. And I want to talk about that just briefly is, God, we need to just stop and focus and cherish this moment, because next year, Luke is gone. And we've got a very special quarterback, extremely special and dangerous, very accurate. And he could be the most efficient quarterback coming into the NFL next year. I mean, he in a way, he's a lot like Drew Brees, although he's taller, like I said. But, just kind of stop and enjoy this season, because this is a special season. Yes, I'm looking forward to Tyler Hilinski. Hilinski's going to be great. Put him in the entire fourth quarter. Why not? I'd like to see that, by the way. I'd like to see more of Tyler than just 1 minute's worth. And Tyler will be fabulous next year, I'm sure. But Luke's, let's enjoy this ride while Luke's with us. And you know what? Another ride we've got? We're leaning on our running backs. How about a balance for your offense? How about that? Everybody thinks, they're air raid. They throw 90% of the time. Guess what? Watch out. And I don't care if you're Boise State or USC. We've got some attention out there. I think this is just the beginning. And again, it's that confidence, and it's that smart football, and it's that swag, and it's the talent. It mainly is the talent, and it's the coaching, and it's the seniors that know what they're doing. And, this team's very, very special. Somebody said to me the other day that Washington State has only been ranked in preseason 3 times in over 100 years. Ever since the rankings have been out. They haven't been out 100 years. We've only been ranked preseason 3 times in the top 25. Really? And I think we're going to see that change. Look at Boise State when Chris Peterson was running Boise State. They were in there all day long, all the time. Boise State is unranked, and we're going to talk about that on the second half of the program, part of the Boise State segment. But here we are. We're number 20. We're up 4 from 24 to 20. We're in 22 on another poll, the coaches poll. So we're having fun. The running backs, James Williams, what can you say? We've already talked about Williams a little bit. James Williams is just the go-to guy. It is so fun to watch him play, to watch him run, to watch him hurdle, which, of course, Leach doesn't. Leach, despite hurdling, doesn't really approve it. But guess what? But he's not telling Williams no. James Williams is dangerous. James Williams is a sophomore. James Williams will be back next year. All right? Who won't be back next year? Keith Harrington, he's a senior. Jamal Morrow is also a senior. So we're losing Jamal, we're losing Keith, and we're losing Wicks. No, excuse me. Keith Harrington's a junior. All right. So for the most part, Keith Harrington's back. James Williams is back. We're losing Jamal Morrow and Gerard Wicks. All right. So Williams, wow, this is so fun. And you know what? All the eyes are going to be on us. It's going to be great. We can throw it, can't throw the deep ball. That's fine. Accuracy, yes. Smart football, running game, very good. We haven't seen this in years. Truly insane. It's amazing. Eric Powell, let's talk about the kicking game. Powell did a great job. I was a little concerned about our kicking game. I think we're going to be fine. He did a great job, Eric Powell. Luke, again, 20 for 20 in the first half. He was 100% efficient. 20 for 20. How many quarterbacks do that? How many? How many are doing that? It's not common at all. That is some great stuff 20 straight passes by Luke in the first half. That's insane. It's unbelievable. And yes, you can compare him to Drew Brees, the level of accuracy and greatness, although Luke is about 4 inches taller than Drew Brees. Total, Luke was 33 for 39, 3 touchdowns. And, you could just see the team is enjoying themselves, the confidence in a good program in terms of overall performance. Yes, it was a Big Sky opponent, but that doesn't matter. We didn't overlook them. And Montana State's going to win a few games this year. By the way, the team Cougs didn't take any risks, which I really like. We didn't have to have any trick plays. We didn't take any risks. We just played. We did what we needed to do to win the game. Dink and dunk all day long. Hey, I'll take it. We'll dink and dunk all day long. You're going to cover our receivers? Fine. Throw the ball to our running backs. See what happens, right? And so, anyway, Jeff Choate, second year Choate, knows what he's doing. He's in a rebuild mode completely. Quarterback Chris Murray did a pretty good job. I mean, he's one-dimensional. He basically runs the football and beat out Tyler Brugman last year. We talked about that last week. Tyler's off the team. Tyler Brugman, who was a former Cougar quarterback. And so that was midway through 2016. Brugman took off. Chris Murray basically is great with his legs, but wasn't really that effective against us. Of course, with a shutout, 31-0. I mean, he was a little bit effective, but nothing really concerning. They've got a great linebacker, Mac Bignell, fifth-year senior. He's a leader on the defensive side, and Bignell had a pretty good game against us. He had some great tackles. He played well. They got Mitchell Herbert, wide receiver, is pretty good. That's their top receiver, and Troy Anderson, their running back. But for the most part, Montana State is really one-dimensional with Murray. And, I think Choate knows it. He's got some work to do, and that's fine. They're going to win a few games this year. Maybe, who knows, maybe 4-5 games. But it was overall, it was good to see the Cougs come out with confidence, with swag, with smartness, with greatness, with accuracy, with weapons. What can you say? Weapons. Are you kidding me? Wow. And speaking about weapons, we're going to talk about Boise State game number 2 on ESPN National TV at 7:30 kick. We're going to talk about Boise State, the Broncos, coming up right after the break, right after this.
Hey, Coug fans. You're podcasting with James Laurie and the PodcastCoug Radio Network. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug on Demand show, featuring all things Cougar football in Washington State. To help you get through the week, hit the subscribe button or check us out on iTunes, the App Store, iOS, Google Play, Stitcher, or at podcastcoug.com.
Welcome back to the second half of the PodcastCoug. I'm James Laurie, your PodcastCoug, and here we go. Boise State, 7:30, ESPN, of course, national. The line is 9 for the Cougs, and last year, of course, the Cougs were 8-5. Broncos were 10-3. We've got the series. We lead the series 4-1. Last time we met, of course, was a year ago with a disappointing loss. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Cougs are ranked 20 in the AP, up 4 notches. Coaches poll 22. Boise State. There's 2 units that struggled on last year's team. Now this is a totally different year or team for them this year. But last year they struggled on defense and special teams, and their strengths in that last weekend they beat Troy 24-13. And that was their strengths. The Bronco D forced 3 turnovers in the win. All of last year, they had 9. Okay, Troy managed just 2 plays of 20 yards. Meanwhile, Boise State also took a punt return for 81 yards for a touchdown and had a long kickoff return. So they're not bad in defense and special teams. How about this against ranked opponents? Now, Washington State is the first ranked opponent that Boise State has faced since the 2014 Fiesta Bowl. Remember that? That was a huge stage on December 31st on the Fiesta Bowl in 2014. That's the last time Boise State played a ranked opponent. And this is going to be the 12th game going in as an unranked team against a ranked opponent. And they're 2-9 all time in that situation, and they're also 3-10 against ranked opponents. So, Mountain West Conference, right? They've got concerns with Colorado State and BYU, but I think the Cougs are going to be their biggest challenge of the year, their biggest opponent of the whole season. I think more than Colorado State and certainly BYU. And Colorado State had a great opener with Oregon State 2 weeks ago. Last year on their bowl game, it was Brett Rippon. We know Brett Rippon, the nephew, right, of Mark, the Cougar great, NFL great Mark Rippon. So Rippon played against Baylor in the Cactus Bowl in Phoenix. Baylor won that game, and Boise State finished their record at 10-3. They do have a quarterback controversy. And yes, it is a quarterback controversy. But I think that the biggest concern for the Broncos is their offensive line, okay? That quarterback controversy, the wrinkle is basically Montel Cozart. Now, he joined the Broncos this offseason. He graduated, a graduate transfer. He graduated from Kansas, was their starter at Kansas, came over to Boise State in the offseason. And in the season opener at Troy last week, it was Cozart, not Rippon, that led the Broncos to 2 touchdown drives and helped seal the 24-13 win over Boise State. Win for Boise State. So it was Cozart that basically won the game for Troy. Won the game over Troy for Boise State. And Cozart was only in for 5 drives, including the final 3 in the fourth quarter. So again, Boise State scored only 2 touchdowns with Cozart in control. So basically, Cozart runs the ball. Rippon is he's just a pocket quarterback. I mean, not just. He's a very good pocket quarterback, pocket passer. And so the plan last week is just, like I said, just to plug Cozart in, let the former Kansas starter change a pace and then switch it back to Rippon. And that plan just blew out of the window. I mean, it didn't go anywhere. Rippon remains as he is their starter. But like I said, Cozart is the runner. He's a dynamic runner. And if the offensive line struggles, a running quarterback can really help, and as it did with Troy. But Rippon last year in the Mountain West, he's an all-time Mountain West quarterback. Threw for 3,700 yards, so he's more likely to bounce back. Brett is a good quarterback. He did some good work on Saturday. It's just that he got overshadowed by a pick 6, and then he sat on the sideline and watched Cozart win the game in the fourth quarter. So. Cougs last year, disappointing, lost to the Broncos. Frankly, it was a game that Cougs should have won going away. The defense played mostly uninspired, and then we had inconsistent offense. and it wound up a loss. It was 0-2 start for the Cougs. You know, we lost to Eastern Washington, and then we go up to the blue turf and lose to Boise State. I mean, I was just shocked. Nobody saw that coming at all, right? Boise State went on a 10-3 record, but they failed to win the Mountain West title game and they finished outside the top 25. Brian Harsin, he's a very good coach, great guy. He worked under Chris Peterson. He's in his fourth year, and he's got a 32-9 record. The guy is a great, great coach. I just don't think they have that powerhouse. They're not ranked. They certainly are rebuilding, and they're working on. Now Boise State. Back to the Troy game last week, they just held Troy to 215 yards of total offense, and they had 4 sacks. It was a team effort completely, but they did struggle on offense, and it's third down conversions. They were 9 of 19 in third down conversions. And they were huge, and they were 0 for 4 in fourth down, literally. So. They didn't have very much luck there. The Cougs are going to have to bottle up Avery Williams. He was named the Special Teams Player of the Week in Mountain West. Williams had a kickoff return and also brought one of the 48 yards back against Troy. So should be interesting. 3 Boise State offensive linemen made their first starts in the opener, and it literally showed. Troy's defensive line racked up 12 tackles and a loss for 4 sacks against the Broncos. Get this, Boise State's starting offensive line last year, in last year's Cactus Bowl, they had 158 total career starts total on their offensive line. And the current team that played against Troy, they only have 14 starts, so they're young. They did break free a 49-yard touchdown run, but apart from that, they managed only 98 yards, 43 attempts, and a 49-yard run. That's just, that's what it is. I mean, I don't see a huge concern with Boise State coming in here. They've, like I said, we're confident. We have swagger. We're playing as a team. Luke knows what he's doing. We can dink and dunk the shovel fast. I mean, we can go. The consistency with the air raid, with our running backs, I don't see a huge problem. Luke's got the arm strength. Brian Harsin said that he literally said in his press conference that Luke is one of the best he's one of the top quarterbacks in the country. It's great to hear other people say this. And he commands the offense, moves the ball down the field. He's extremely efficient. He's got that Drew Brees efficiency. If there's any sign of how far the offense has come in a few years, is that the Cougs will establish the run against Boise State. Okay, and I think we're just going to mix that in and put a little James Williams in there, and away we go. So we're looking at running the ball. Cole Madison said we didn't run the ball like crap last year. We just got to pound it down and make something happen. And don't forget about up front. Every starting lineman is at least 6'3", 310 pounds. Are you kidding me? You combine all that stuff, it makes for a well-balanced, makes a completely balanced Cougar team, probably the best Leach team we've seen so far in year 6, okay? Obviously, it's going to present some challenges for Boise State, and I think it could present some significant challenges, okay? So Boise is going to have to bring their A game to Pullman. I mean, they've got to play their A game. No mistakes by far. I think that the Cougs are going to be their toughest opponent. I did mention their Colorado State is on their schedule this year and BYU, but I really think that they're circling this game as their biggest opponent of their entire schedule. So that's kind of the deal there. That's kind of the recap. We're just, I think it's going to be fun. I think it'll be great. We talked about the Cougar Crawl. Did we talk about the Cougar Crawl? It's moved over to the front of the field house. No more on Stadium Way. So don't hang out Stadium Way at the ticket office at the Cougar statue. 6 o'clock, 6:15, get over to the field house. The buses roll up. Leach comes out with the players. The band is there. The cheerleaders are there. Butch is there. 6 o'clock, 6:15 Saturday night, right in front of the field house. It's going to be a blast. It is going to be great. This is exciting. It's college football again. Forget the NFL, man. I mean, I know the NFL is starting this week, but I'll tell you, it is all about college football. Have a great Saturday, and go Cougs.
You've been listening to the PodcastCoug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. This has been a presentation of the PodcastCoug Radio Network. Find us at PodcastCoug.com.